Breaking news is the UFC just announced that Rafael Fiziev is stepping in for Dan Hooker against Justin Gaethje at UFC 313. Now, it's been rumored over these past few days that this isn't a rumor, this is confirmed, that Rafael Fiziev, Mateusz Gamrot, and Money Moicano have all offered up to fight Justin Gaethje next weekend after Dan Hooker stepped out because he broke his hand. And all along, not one single other YouTuber, actually except Ariel Helwani, but not any YouTubers, were saying that Rafael Fiziev should get the shot except me. Now, I make a video on this, but in my brain, the whole time I've been like, it should be Fiziev. And why is this? Because the other two options, Moicano just fought Islam Makhachev. And if Islam Makhachev is about to move out of the weight class, he might as well take some time off, get a next fight, and then eventually fight for the title again against not Islam Makhachev, because we already saw how that one went. And then Mateusz Gamrot is historically a boring fighter, except for one fight he had, ironically, against Dan Hooker. But I don't want to see him just diving at Justin Gaethje's legs when we are supposed to get the most violent match in UFC history in Justin Gaethje versus Dan Hooker. And Rafael Fiziev is a kickboxing guy who hits harder than a Mack truck. This guy genuinely hits so hard, and it is going to be a very interesting fight. Now, they did fight before. I'll show you that right here. So, in March of 2023, Justin Gaethje won a decision against Rafael Fiziev. If you look at Fiziev's record, he's only fought once since then against Mateusz Gamrot, funny enough. But he's been out with injury ever since. So, he's been out for a year and a half now, and he's been training, looking good in the videos, so I'm very excited to see him get back in against Justin Gaethje. And nothing's going to be as good of a match as Justin Gaethje versus Dan Hooker, but Rafael Fiziev is the best option we get as a replacement. So looking at Justin Gaethje's record since he beat Fiziev, he went on to beat Dustin Poirier in a pretty cool match. He actually had a head kick, which was really sick to watch. And then he lost to Max Holloway. Everybody knows that is the best knockout in UFC history, potentially. At least one of the most memorable or most iconic. And that was almost a year ago, and Justin Gaethje has not fought yet. Now, since Fiziev and Gaethje fought, what Fiziev has done is lose to Mateusz Gamrot, who Gamrot's one of the best fighters in the division. I'm not going to hold that against him too roughly. You know, he does have other impressive wins against someone like a Dos Anjos, Bobby King Green, and those are actually all of the notable names. But this guy is a really good kickboxer, and this is going to be a really entertaining match to watch. Not as good as the Dan Hooker one, of course, but it is still going to be a great matchup. And by the way, leave a sub, because I am the first guy guaranteed bringing you this news on YouTube, because the live stream with Dana White just ended. Right now it is 7:25, and this was posted at 7:16. If you want high quality UFC content and you want to join the best up and coming UFC YouTube channel, you might as well join the community now as we build something special. The next breaking news we get is Gene Silva, who just fought last week and had a sick knockout. This guy's a star in the making. He is fighting Bryce Mitchell at UFC 314. And it's funny, Bryce Mitchell had some anti-Semitic comments recently, and Dana White had to clarify on the Instagram Live that this isn't a hit they're putting out on Bryce Mitchell, because we all know the type of fighter Gene Silva is. He's crazy. He's a madman, but he's awesome. But that Gene Silva openly called Bryce Mitchell out literally like a day or two ago, and Bryce Mitchell immediately texted Dana White and said he wants to fight. So this is actually pretty cool on both fighters' point of view, and this actually looks like Bryce Mitchell is kind of bow-legged. That looks really weird. But anyways, this is going to be a sick fight. Both of these fighters are really popular right now for very different reasons for each of them. But this will be a really sick fight to see. Two stars fighting each other that are on the come up right now. And Gene Silva, ladies and gentlemen, I will have another video about this in the future. This guy could be a superstar in the making. Mark my word. And as we look into Gene Silva's record, he's only been fighting in the UFC for 2 years now. Wow. He had the Dana White Contender Series and has actually only been in the UFC for just over a year. In that time, he is 4-0, and then if you had a Contender Series match, he is 5-0. And this guy is just crazy. He's barking at reporters, barking at the mic, knocking all of his opponents out in the UFC. There's a decision in Dana White Contender Series, but every fight in the UFC has been a knockout, which is the exact opposite of someone like a Bilal Muhammad. I'll stop dragging the hate right now. This is the type of fighting fans want to see. We don't want to see people laying on top of people like Arman Sarukian did to Charles Oliveira for a win. We want people knocking people out like Gene Silva did. This Gene Silva is who Sean Strickland thinks he is when he says that it's going to be a war for you guys, right? Yeah. Anyways, we'll look at Bryce Thug Nasty Mitchell, which is just a very goofy nickname. You know, he had a good run when he came into the UFC back in 2018. Wow. And then he lost to Ilya Topuria, and you really can't hold him against that much because Ilya is on an insane run. not losing. Anyone's going to lose to Ilia Topuria. Bryce Mitchell beats Dan Ige, who's looked good, and Dan Ige is the guy who almost beat Diego Lopez, who is potentially about to be the featherweight champion on a couple-hour notice. So that's a good win for Bryce Mitchell to have over him. Bryce Mitchell lost to Josh Emmett. If you guys remember, that is the fight where Bryce Mitchell was on the ground like this, shaking after Josh Emmett landed one of the hardest punches I've ever seen watching a fight. And then Bryce Mitchell beat Kron Gracie just a couple months ago, and Kron Gracie didn't deserve that fight. That's not the most impressive fight, but it actually is kind of cool because Kron Gracie tried to pull guard while Bryce Mitchell was standing, and then he slammed him on the ground and just rained down elbows on him. So that was actually pretty cool. These are both actually really good fighters. Bryce Mitchell a little more experienced and a little more established than Gene Silva. I still would bet money on Gene Silva if I were to bet on this fight, but that's not betting advice. But I think this is going to be a really good fight, and honestly, you can't really sleep on Bryce Mitchell because he has impressive wins and he has a good ground game as well. So this is another banger fight. That's huge fight news that just broke, and I'm the first guy to bring you it, so you could repay me with a little subscribe. But let me know who you guys think wins both those fights. Is Gene Silva beating Bryce Mitchell? Is Justin Gaethje beating Rafael Fiziev? And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.